Something has been weighing on me for a long time. Something that I've kept in silence, not because I was afraid of the truth, but because I didn't know how to say it. And maybe even now, I don't. But the moment is here. It has to be. What I'm about to share with you, it will shake some of you. It will make others question everything you thought you knew. And I know without a doubt that some of you will be angry. You'll ask why I didn't speak sooner. You'll wonder what changed. You might even feel betrayed. But I need you to stay with me just until the very end. Because this is not just about me. This is about something deeper. Something every one of us faces at some point in our lives, the choice between staying silent to protect peace or speaking the truth and letting the storm come. Before I go further, I want to ask you something. Where are you watching this from? I want you to type your city, your country in the comments below. I want to see just how many of you are walking this path with me, whether you're in Jakarta, New York, Paris, Seoul, or somewhere in the quiet corners of this world. I want to know who's here, because this message, it isn't for everyone. But if you're still listening right now, I believe you were meant to hear it. And if you've ever carried something too heavy for too long, if you've ever looked around and felt like the world wouldn't understand what's in your heart, then maybe, just maybe, this message is for you. Now, before I tell you what's been happening, I want to ask you to do something else. If you've ever had a secret that you knew would hurt someone you love, if you've ever stood in front of the mirror and questioned who you are, or where you're going, or what comes next, just type one word, truth. Not because you're perfect, but because you're willing to hear what's real. I promise that by the end of this message, you'll understand everything. And maybe if you're brave enough, you'll find the truth that's been waiting in your own story too. Let me take you back. It didn't happen overnight. None of this did. It was years of conversations behind closed doors, shared laughter in hotel rooms, silent car rides after a concert, group dinners that felt warm on the outside but quietly cracked on the inside. And somewhere in between all of that, something shifted, not just in the group, in me. There are 7 of us, 7 hearts, 7 histories, 7 different versions of strength. But sometimes, even in the most beautiful family, not everything stays the same forever. And the truth is, I started falling in love. I know that sounds simple, but it wasn't. Because when you belong to the world, when millions of people see you as part of something greater than yourself, falling in love becomes complicated, and staying silent becomes survival. But silence has a cost. For years, I told myself it was better this way. That love could wait. That dreams had to come first. That our bond, the 7 of us, was the only thing that could matter. That any change, any step in a different direction would feel like betrayal. But hearts don't care about logic. And no matter how far you run from your truth, it always finds you. I met her in a moment I wasn't expecting. Not at a party, not at a shoot. Just a quiet moment, a glance. A conversation that didn't start with fame or music or questions about being Jungkook. It started with something real, something still, something that reminded me I was a human being before I was a singer, before I was a symbol. And I didn't mean for it to grow. I didn't plan on anything, but it did. She didn't ask for this life. She didn't chase it. In fact, she was afraid of it, afraid of what loving me would mean, afraid of the headlines, the eyes, the judgments, and I was afraid too because I knew what would come. I knew people would question everything about her, about us, about me. I've watched it happen to others, and I always told myself, I'll be honest when it's time, when the moment feels right, when the world is quieter. But the world never gets quiet, does it? So here I am now, not because everything is perfect, not because I have answers to every question, but because the silence became louder than the truth, and I can't carry it alone anymore. I am getting married. And yes, this is the first time I'm saying it out loud. To those who are shocked, I understand. To those who feel like this is too soon, or too sudden, or not what you expected, I hear you. And to those who feel heartbroken, I feel that too. Because this isn't just an announcement. This is a moment that comes with fear, with risk, with the weight of everything we've built together. Not just me, not just her. But the 7 of us, and you, if you're still here, if you're still listening, I want you to type something else in the comments. I'm still with you, because what comes next won't be easy. But I believe that truth, no matter how disruptive, leads to freedom. And I hope, after everything, you'll still walk with me. There are so many things I wish I could say all at once. So many pieces of the story. Conversations with Namjoon when I told him first. The way his face went, still not angry, just aware. The night I told Jimin, and how quiet he went. Not because he didn't support me, but because he felt something deeper. Something even I didn't fully understand. Taehyung didn't say anything for a long time. He just looked at me, and then said, "You sure you're ready for the cost?" That was the moment I realized maybe no one's ever ready. You just decide that the truth is worth whatever comes after. Hobie was the light. He smiled even when he was worried. "Love is rare," he said. "If you have it, protect it." Yoongi said, "Be real with the fans. They deserve your honesty." And I knew he was right. And Jinhyung, he didn't say much. He just hugged me. That meant more than any words could. Because in this family, we've seen each other at our best and worst. We've fought. We've cried. We've laughed like boys, even as the world called us legends. And this step I'm taking, it's not about walking away. It's about walking forward. And I pray you'll walk forward with me. I know some people will say this is betrayal, that I'm choosing a different path. But that's not true. I'm choosing my path. The music, the memories, everything we've shared, it's still real. Nothing changes that. But I also have to be honest with myself. I want a future. I want a home. I want children. I want to come back after a long day, not to applause, but to arms that hold me, because I'm just me. If you've ever wanted that too, if you've ever dreamed of a life that's quiet and real and not built for the cameras, type me too in the comments. Let this space be a place of truth, of connection, not judgment. There's so much more I need to say about her, about why I waited, about the nights I stayed awake wondering if I could ever speak these words out loud. But I'll tell you everything. Stay with me, please, because this isn't the end. It's the beginning. Have you ever had a truth so big, so burning, that you had to bury it just to breathe? That's what this has felt like for me. Every stage I've stood on, every photo I've smiled in, every interview where I answered questions that carefully danced around the truth, it was like I was living half of my life on mute. And sometimes, when you do that long enough, you start to forget what your own voice sounds like. I used to think that silence was noble, that keeping things to myself was the price of protecting what we built, that if I just swallowed it all, nobody would get hurt. But I was wrong. Silence doesn't protect. It imprisons. You start to feel like a guest in your own life, smiling on cue, dancing on cue, saying what the world needs to hear, not what your heart is screaming. And the more I hid, the more I realized I wasn't just lying to the world. I was lying to myself. I want to say something now, not just for me, but for anyone out there who's been living in the space between what's expected and what's true. Your truth is not betrayal. Your happiness is not a crime. And your heart, it doesn't need permission to beat. I used to sit alone in hotel rooms after shows. The lights would go off, the noise would fade, the fans would go home, and that's when the silence would scream the loudest. That's when I'd feel the weight of it all. Because that's when I'd remember I wasn't alone in those thoughts. I had someone I loved waiting for me to be honest, waiting for me to stop hiding, waiting for me to choose. I want to talk about her now, not as a public figure, not as Jungkook's fiancé, but as a person, a soul, a woman with dreams of her own, a heart that didn't ask for this spotlight, someone who never wanted fame, someone who fell in love with the version of me that wasn't performing. She met Jungkook, not Jungkook of BTS. She saw the messy, tired, overthinking, stubborn version of me, and she stayed. She stayed even when I told her we couldn't be public. She stayed when I asked her to hide behind my career. She stayed when I said, someday, maybe. But love isn't meant to live in shadows. And one night, I'll never forget it, she looked at me and said, if you have to pretend I don't exist just to be loved by the world, then maybe I'm not the one who needs to leave. That broke me. Not because she was wrong, but because she was absolutely right. I realized I was forcing the person I loved to live like a secret. And that's not love. That's fear. And I didn't want to be a man ruled by fear anymore. I want to pause for a moment. If you've ever made someone you love feel invisible, even unintentionally, I want you to write this in the comments. I see you now. Because acknowledging someone's pain is the beginning of healing. It's the first step back to truth. I wish I could tell you I had all the courage from the start, but I didn't. I was scared of losing you, scared of losing the music, scared of headlines I couldn't control, scared of whispers that would grow louder than the songs. But courage doesn't start loud. Sometimes it starts with a whisper that says, enough. Enough pretending, enough hiding, enough waiting. I made a promise to her after that night. I said, no more secrets. And she didn't say anything right away. She just cried. Not because she didn't believe me, but because part of her finally let go of the fear that I'd never choose her. And in choosing her, I wasn't rejecting you. That's the part I need you to hear. I didn't fall out of love with BTS. I didn't forget the memories. I didn't trade our journey for something else. But my heart is bigger now. There's room for both. There's room for the dream we built and the future I want to build with her. Some people might say I'm selfish, that this changes everything. But maybe we've misunderstood what loyalty really means. Loyalty isn't sacrificing your soul for someone else's expectations. Loyalty is being honest. Loyalty is choosing truth even when it costs you. Loyalty is saying, I still love you, but I need to love myself too. Let me say this clearly. I love the 6 men I've shared this road with. Namjoon, Jinhyung, Yoongi, Hobi, Jimin, Taehyung. Each of you has held pieces of me the world will never see, and nothing will erase that. But I also know this moment changes something, and I accept that. I'm not asking for blind acceptance. I'm just asking you to see me, really see me. Because this version of me, the one speaking now, is the most real I've ever been. And if you've ever hidden a part of yourself to make someone else comfortable, you know how terrifying that is. If you've ever told yourself they wouldn't understand, I want you to write this in the comments. No more hiding. Let this be our moment. Together. A confession of sorts. Not of guilt, but of truth. And there's something else you need to hear. Something I haven't told anyone publicly. The day I decided to propose, I was alone. No cameras, no stylist, no big plan. Just me. And a small note I had written months earlier, but never had the courage to give her. It said, I'm tired of waiting for the world to be ready. I'm ready to be yours, if you'll still have me. I left it by her tea. I went for a walk, and when I came back, she was holding the note. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. The tears in her eyes said everything. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of our story. I know many of you will still have questions. I'll answer them. I know some will feel angry. I understand. But I also believe that the people who truly love you, they want you to be free. So I'm choosing freedom, not from the past, but into a future where I don't have to whisper anymore. Stay with me. There's more I need to share. This is only the beginning. I thought that once I told the truth, things would feel easier. But they didn't. If anything, it got harder. Because once you speak what's real, you can't hide behind the old version of yourself anymore. The moment I opened that door, everything changed. Some people looked at me the same way they always had. Kind eyes, supportive, smiles, quiet understanding. But others, they looked at me like I'd ruined everything. Like the image they built of me was more real than the man standing in front of them. And that broke something in me I didn't even realize was still fragile. Because I've spent years being exactly what everyone needed me to be. The younger brother, the golden maknae, the perfectionist, the safe one. And now, for the first time, I wasn't safe anymore. I was choosing something, someone, outside of the narrative, outside of the frame. And when you do that, you stop being a symbol. You become human. And that's when people start to turn on you. There were messages I didn't expect. Words I wasn't prepared for. You betrayed us. You were supposed to be different. How could you? And those weren't from strangers. Some were from people I thought would understand. Some were from people I thought knew my heart. But here's the thing about telling the truth. It doesn't guarantee applause. It just guarantees clarity. And that clarity can be a very lonely place. I remember waking up one morning and seeing headlines. Not about the music. Not about the work. But about her. About me. About the scandal. As if love is scandalous. As if wanting a life of your own is selfish. I sat at the edge of my bed and I just stared at the floor. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just went quiet. Because for the first time, I truly understood what it felt like to be misunderstood on purpose. People weren't interested in who I was. They were interested in who they needed me to stay. I want to ask you something. Have you ever been punished for growing? Punished for healing? Punished for finally standing up and saying, "This is who I am now"? If you have, type this in the comments. I felt that too. Because I want you to know you're not alone. And I want you to know the storm always comes before the light. In the days that followed, I spoke to each of the members again. Not as BTS, not as professionals, but as brothers. Namjoon came first. He said, "This is going to test everything." And I nodded. I know, but it's also going to prove who's real. That part stayed with me. Jin called late one night. He just said, "You okay?" I didn't have an answer, but I said, "I will be." And he whispered, "That's enough for now." Yoongi, he barely said anything. Just sent me a link to an old quote. "Let them misunderstand you. The truth needs no defense." Hobie messaged me a meme of a dog holding coffee while the room is on fire. Caption, "You got this. Even in chaos, he brings light." But it was Jimin's reaction that shook me the most. He didn't message right away. Didn't call. Didn't say anything. And that silence? It stung more than anything. Because Jimin and I, we've always had this unspoken connection. The kind that doesn't need words. But this needed words. So I called him. And when he answered, he just said, "I didn't know how to talk to you without crying." That's when I realized this wasn't just hard for me. It was hard for them too. Not because they didn't support me, but because we were entering uncharted territory. One of us was taking a step that made the future feel unfamiliar. And unfamiliarity brings fear. But fear isn't always the enemy. Sometimes, it's the sign that you're on the edge of transformation. If you're reading this right now and you're standing on the edge of something new, even if it terrifies you, I want you to write, "I'm stepping forward." Let's claim this moment together. Let's refuse to be held back by the versions of ourselves that kept others comfortable but kept us confined. I've been asked why I didn't announce this through the company, why I didn't do a press conference, why I didn't manage the story better. And the answer is simple. This wasn't a story. It was my life. And I wanted to speak it with my own voice. Not through a statement. Not through a filtered post. But through this raw, unedited, trembling, and real. Because if you're going to love me, I want you to love the version of me that trembles. The version that chooses truth even when it's unpopular. The version that shows up scared but still shows up. And I want to say this to the fans who stayed through the silence, through the reveal, through the noise. Thank you. Not just for supporting me, but for seeing me, really seeing me. For understanding that I'm not leaving you behind. I'm inviting you into something new. A new chapter, a new kind of honesty. A new kind of relationship. One where we stop pretending idols aren't human. Where we stop demanding perfection at the cost of their peace. Where we say, "I love your art, but I care about your soul more." And if you believe in that, type this, "Human first, always." Let that be our anthem. Let that be what we pass down to the next generation of artists, dreamers, and believers. Not fear, not silence, but freedom. And I want to say one more thing before I close this part of the message. She's not perfect. Neither am I. We argue. We misunderstand each other. We're still learning. But she holds me accountable to my truth. She reminds me who I am when I'm too tired to remember. And she calls me home, not Jungkook. That is everything. So to those still walking with me, thank you. To those still confused, I understand. And to those who are angry, I hear you. But I won't apologize for choosing something real. Because the truth, it's all I have now. And it's all I want to give you. Stay close. There's still more to say. There's a moment I keep going back to in my mind. Not a concert, not an award, not a magazine cover. It was late at night, no makeup, no lights, no music playing in the background. Just the soft hum of a ceiling fan and the distant sound of rain outside. She was sitting on the floor, back against the couch, hair tied up, wearing an oversized sweater I had left at her place by accident. She was holding a book, not reading it, just holding it, and I was across the room watching her unnoticed. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt peace. Not excitement, not adrenaline, not pressure, just stillness. That's when I realized something no one had ever taught me. Love is not loud. It's not dramatic. It's not always poetic. Sometimes it's quiet, steady. It waits in the corners of the day you don't post on Instagram. It holds you in the silence after an argument. It reminds you who you are when you've forgotten. That night, I didn't take a picture. I didn't write a song. I just let myself feel it fully, silently, completely. And maybe for the first time, I wasn't trying to turn it into something beautiful for the world. I just let it be beautiful for me. I know that might sound strange coming from someone whose whole life has been on display. But that's the thing about visibility. The more you're seen, the more you learn how to hide. And I became very good at hiding. Hiding exhaustion with performance. Hiding doubt with discipline. Hiding fear with fan service. But love doesn't let you hide for long. It has this way of gently or sometimes painfully pulling you out from behind your masks. And when it does, you're left asking, do I want to be loved for the version of me I present, or for the version of me that's real? If you've ever asked yourself that question, if you've ever stood in a mirror and wondered whether people love you or the idea of you, I want you to write this in the comments. I want real love, because there's someone else reading this who needs to know they're not the only one asking. And if nothing else, let this moment connect us in our shared desire to be seen not as perfect, but as honest. There's a reason I've been telling this story slowly. It's because I needed time to feel it as I said it. Not just recite it, not just perform it, but live it again as if I were pulling pieces of myself out and laying them gently into your hands. Because you matter. And you've been with me, some of you, since the beginning. I remember those early days. The dorms, the training, the hunger, literal and metaphorical. The nights we couldn't sleep because the fear of failing was louder than anything else. We were just boys. Boys with big dreams and even bigger uncertainty. But we had each other. And that made the difference. There were nights Jimin would sneak into my room and sit silently until I fell asleep. Times Hobie would pretend everything was okay just to keep our spirits high. Yoongi riding through his pain so the rest of us had something to hold on to. Namjoon shouldering responsibilities none of us could see, just so we didn't feel the weight. Taehyung making us laugh when we wanted to cry. Jinhyung giving us that silent, steady leadership we didn't know we needed. We didn't always get along, but we always came back to each other. And now things are changing. Not falling apart. Changing, growing, becoming. And part of that becoming is me choosing to step into a new kind of love. A quiete love. A private love. A love that doesn't need to be proven. She isn't flashy. She doesn't try to impress. She doesn't chase the spotlight. She once told me, I don't want to be the reason people question your loyalty to your fans. And I looked at her and said, you're the reason I'm learning what loyalty really means. That silenced her. She cried. I held her. And in that moment, I knew. This is what love looks like when no one is watching. No cameras. No edits. Just two imperfect people trying to choose each other over and over again. And I'll be honest, I didn't think I was ready for this. I thought love was something I'd find later. After all the tours. After all the expectations. After the world was done with me. But what if the world is never done with you? What if peace isn't something you earn? What if it's something you choose, even while the world is still watching? I want to ask you a question, and I want you to answer it honestly. Are you waiting to be finished before you allow yourself to be loved? If that's you, right, no more waiting. Let this be your declaration. Because you deserve love in the middle of your becoming, not just when you've arrived. You deserve someone who sees your flaws as part of the masterpiece. Who doesn't need you to shine all the time? Who can sit with your shadows and still say, I'm not leaving? That's what she did for me. And now, I want to do that for her. I want to protect her, not with secrecy, but with truth. I want to love her, not behind closed doors, but with quiet courage. I want to build a life, not as an escape from who I was, but as an extension of who I've become. And if you can accept that, if you can still walk with me after hearing all this, then type "still here." Let those two words be a bridge between us, because what's coming next, it won't be easy, but it will be real. And for the first time, that's enough. I know not everyone will stay. That's okay. Truth isn't meant to keep everyone. It's meant to keep the right ones. And I believe deep down that you're one of them. So keep walking with me. The road ahead is long, but it's finally honest. There's a voice inside me that used to whisper, "You're not ready." It would come to me in the middle of rehearsals, in the silence after encore stages, in the back of black cars driving through streets lined with screaming fans. A voice that said, "Don't break the illusion. Don't change what's working. Don't choose something they didn't expect." That voice sounded like fear, but it wore the mask of caution, of responsibility, of obligation, and for the longest time, I obeyed it. Because when millions of people have given you their hearts, you don't take that lightly. You don't just follow your own desires blindly. You carry the weight of their expectations, their loyalty, their dreams. But over time, I realized something that changed everything. Living for others is not the same as living with honor. You can still honor the people who love you and be honest about your own journey. You can still cherish what you've built and admit that you've changed. You can still love the stage and also long for a hand to hold when the lights go out. I didn't know that when I was younger. Back then, I thought love had to wait. I thought I had to become someone else first, more successful, more prepared, more perfect. But that idea, that's a trap. Perfection is a moving target. And love, real love, doesn't require you to arrive. It meets you where you are. I want to tell you something I've never said publicly. A year before I proposed, I almost ended the relationship. Not because I didn't love her, but because I loved you, all of you, so much that I was terrified of letting you down. I thought, maybe if I walk away now, before it gets deeper, no one will get hurt. But that night, as I was about to make the call, she texted me something that stopped me cold. It said, "Don't protect me by breaking us. That's not protection. That's fear dressed up as sacrifice." I read it over and over again, and I cried, because she wasn't asking me to choose her instead of you. She was asking me to stop choosing fear. That was the moment I started to understand what it means to be ready. Readiness isn't about having no fear. It's about being willing to move through it anyway. And so, I did. I stopped trying to plan the perfect moment. I stopped waiting for the right headline. I stopped asking permission from ghosts that lived in my own mind. And I chose love. Not just romantic love, but self-love. Real love. The kind that doesn't need to be hidden or postponed or explained away. The kind that just is. If you've ever delayed your own joy because you thought it wasn't time, I want you to write this in the comments. I choose now, because waiting doesn't always make you stronger. Sometimes it just makes you tired. And you deserve more than tired love. You deserve brave love. I know many of you are still wondering about her, what she's like, how we met, what she does, and while I want to protect her privacy, I want to share something honest with you. She's not famous. She's not in the industry. She doesn't wear designer clothes unless I beg her to for events. She has this laugh that comes out of nowhere and fills a room before she even realizes it. She prays before meals. She reads more than she talks. She's shy around cameras, but bold when she believes in something. She once told me that her biggest fear was being the reason people love you less. And that broke me, because I never want her to carry the weight of my fame like it's a burden. I want her to feel safe in my world, not like an intruder. I want her to be celebrated, not tolerated. And I hope, truly, that one day, you'll see her for who she is. Not as a threat to your love for me, but as someone who taught me how to love myself when I forgot how. She never asked me to choose, but I'm choosing her. And choosing you. Both. Because you both shaped me. You with your unwavering support, your endless cheers, your belief in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. And her with her quiet presence, her patience, her refusal to let me become a hollow version of myself. Together, you taught me that I don't have to split my heart in two. I can expand it, I can grow, I can become more than what I was without losing who I've always been. And if you believe that too, if you believe that we're allowed to become more than type, let me grow. Let that be your prayer, your declaration, your permission slip to stop shrinking for others. Because growth is not betrayal. It's faith. Faith that there's more to you than people have seen. Faith that you're allowed to evolve. Faith that your story doesn't end at the chapter where they stopped reading. There's something else I want to say, and this part is hard. There were moments I considered giving up everything. The music, the group, the spotlight, just so I could be free. But then I remembered, freedom doesn't always mean walking away. Sometimes it means staying, but on your own terms. Sometimes it means saying, yes, I'll keep singing, but I'll also keep loving. Yes, I'll keep showing up, but I won't keep hiding. Yes, I'll keep being yours, but I won't stop being mine. That's what readiness looks like for me now. Not certainty, but clarity. Not perfection, but presence. Not a life without conflict, but a life without masks. And I want that for you too. I want you to live unmasked, unashamed, unfolded. And if this message is reaching you at a time when you needed to hear it, I want you to say it out loud. Right now, wherever you are. Say it with me. I'm ready. Say it until your own voice doesn't shake. Say it until the old fears fall away. Say it until you believe it. Because when you're ready, not perfect, just ready, that's when your life begins again. And this is the beginning of mine. There's still more I need to share. More about the group. More about what happens next. More about how we move forward together. So don't go anywhere. We're just getting started. There's a question I've avoided for years. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because I was afraid of what the answer might cost. It's a simple question on the surface. One I've heard in interviews from friends, even whispered backstage when the lights go out. What do you really want? Not what do your fans want. Not what your company expects. Not what the world hopes. But you, what do you really want? For the longest time, I convinced myself that I didn't need to ask. That wanting more would make me ungrateful. That having dreams outside of music would make me seem disloyal. That imagining a different kind of life would mean I was turning my back on the one I had. But deep down, quietly, I knew. I wanted home, not a place, not a location I could pin on a map, but a person, a rhythm of life that wasn't built on performance, a kind of peace I couldn't get from applause. That's when I realized success and fulfillment are not the same thing. I had all the success I could have ever imagined, but I was still searching for something that didn't come with trophies, something quieter, more sacred, more lasting. It started as a whisper, then a pull, then a deep ache I couldn't ignore anymore. And when I finally asked myself that question, really asked it, I answered out loud. I want to wake up next to someone who doesn't care about the charts. I want to be loved by someone who doesn't flinch when I'm not perfect. I want to grow old with someone who isn't afraid of my silence. And just like that, the answer became a choice, a direction, a promise. That's when everything shifted. And it wasn't easy, because when you start living from your truth, you lose some things. You lose people who were only ever in love with your image. You lose illusions you spent years perfecting. You lose control over how the world sees you. But you gain everything that matters. You gain peace. You gain purpose. You gain yourself. If you've ever been afraid to answer that question, afraid of what it might cost, I want you to write this in the comments. I want what's real, because you're not the only one. There are thousands of us here, all carrying stories we've been afraid to speak. Let this be the place we lay them down, one truth at a time. When I first shared the news with the other members, I thought I was ready for their reactions. But I wasn't, because this wasn't just about me. It was about us, the 7 of us, brothers by choice, family by fire, bound not just by music, but by blood, sweat, and tears the world will never fully understand. We've built something sacred together, and I knew that this moment would test that bond. But what I didn't expect was the grace they gave me. Namjoon, who has always been our anchor, just looked at me and said, "You deserve joy too." Taehyung, who sees more than he says, hugged me tighter than usual, then pulled back and whispered, "You've always been the brave one." Yoongi sent a message later that night. Live your truth. We've got your back. Jinhyung asked to meet in person. We sat in silence for a long time. Then he said, it's okay if things change, as long as we don't stop loving. And Hobi, our eternal sunshine, just smiled and said, she must be special, because you're finally smiling for real. But Jimin was quiet. We were in the practice room, just the two of us. And he said, I don't want to lose what we have. I said, you won't. He looked at me, eyes full of something deeper than fear. Then said, but will you still need us when you have her? That question cut deeper than anything. Because it wasn't about jealousy. It was about love. About history. About everything we've been through together. And I told him from the bottom of my heart, needing her doesn't mean I stopped needing you. It just means I've grown. And he nodded. Not because all the fear vanished, but because he trusted me enough to believe I meant it. That's what real brotherhood looks like. Not perfection, not agreement, but trust. And if you're holding on to people in your life that you love, people you've grown with, but you're afraid to change because you think you'll lose them, I want you to write this. Growth doesn't mean goodbye. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is evolve together. That's what we're trying to do now. Not separate, but expand. To make space for more than just the dream we started with. To allow new dreams in, personal ones, private ones, sacred ones. I used to think love was a distraction, that it pulled you away from the mission. But now I know the truth. Love doesn't take you away. It brings you back. Back to your center, back to your purpose, back to your humanity. And the people who love you, really love you, won't be threatened by that. They'll celebrate it. So if you've been walking through your life pretending not to want more, pretending you're satisfied when you're starving inside, pretending the current version of you is all there will ever be, let this moment be your turning point. Let it be the moment you whisper to yourself, it's okay to want what I want. You don't need permission. You just need to listen. And trust that your desires are not shameful. They're sacred. They're clues. They're leading you somewhere holy. So listen, ask the question, and when the answer comes, even if it terrifies, you don't run from it. Walk toward it, because your truth is not the enemy. It's your freedom. And if you're still with me, still reading this far, type this. I'm walking toward truth, because I want to know who's walking with me. Not just watching, not just liking, but walking, because what's coming next? It requires more than an audience. It requires a community, a family, a tribe of people who are willing to stand in the discomfort of growth and still choose love. Choose freedom. Choose what's real. That's what I'm choosing now. And I want you to choose it with me. The next chapter is waiting. Let's turn the page together. There's something sacred about a promise. It's not just the words. It's the silence behind them. The space where doubt tries to sneak in. And you say, no, I've already chosen. I've made many promises in my life. To my brothers, to my fans, to my team. But this one feels different. Because this one wasn't made on a stage or in front of a crowd. It was made at 2:14 a.m. under a cracked ceiling light in a room that smelled like jasmine tea and rain. It was just me and her. She was scared. I was too. We were sitting on the floor, knees almost touching, but hearts still afraid to lean in. She asked me, are you sure? Not in that movie way, not dramatic, not desperate, just honest, raw, bracing for disappointment. And I told her the only thing that felt true. I'm more sure of this than anything I've ever performed. She blinked. I saw the tears form before they fell. Then I added, this isn't part of the plan, this is the plan. And in that moment, I made the promise. Not with rings, not with speeches, but with presence, with breath, with unwavering eyes that said, I'm not going anywhere. I think back to that night a lot now, especially on the hard days, because even in the chaos that followed the opinions, the judgment, the noise, I knew one thing hadn't changed. I had chosen her, and I would keep choosing her. That's the thing about real promises. They aren't shaken by reactions. They're rooted in conviction. Ainkaya truth. In the sacred, knowing that no one else has to understand for it to remain real. If you've ever made a promise that the world tried to pull you away from, I want you to write this in the comments. I still believe. Because belief isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a whisper you repeat in your own heart when no one else would understand. There's a heaviness that comes with being known. I know that might sound strange, even ungrateful, but being known means being expected. Expected to be consistent, to be grateful, to be accessible, to be flawless. And sometimes you start living for the expectations instead of the essence. You become a reflection of the love around you instead of the soul inside you. That's what started happening to me. I forgot what it felt like to be still, to be soft, to be unfiltered. She reminded me, not by trying to fix me, but by seeing me, really seeing. She didn't fall in love with the performer. She fell in love with the man who forgets to drink enough water. The man who sometimes spirals over small mistakes. The man who needs reassurance even when the world thinks he's fearless. She met me there, and she stayed. And when I think about the vows, we'll say, I don't think of them as pressure. I think of them as clarity. Not I have to, but I get to. I get to choose her. I get to build something sacred. I get to let go of the fear that I'll be abandoned if I stop being perfect. Because the truth is, I'm not perfect, and I don't want to be. I just want to be honest. And if you've been chasing perfection while your truth has been begging to breathe, I want you to say this. Perfection isn't the goal. Let that be your freedom cry. Let that be the moment you choose peace over performance. I know some people are still holding back, still asking, what happens to BTS now? Let me answer with the only thing I know for certain. Nothing will erase what we've built. Not time, not growth, not individual choices. Because we're not just a group, we're a bond. A sacred thread that runs deeper than contracts or comeback schedules. We've been through more together than most people can imagine. We've laughed with each other when the cameras were off. We've cried behind closed doors no one will ever see. We've held each other when the world felt too heavy. And yes, we've disagreed. We've fought, we've questioned, but we've never stopped loving. That's what makes us who we are. Not the choreography, not the photo shoots. Not even the music though, the music is sacred. What makes us us is love. Unshakable, unfiltered, unspoken sometimes, but never absent. So when people ask, is this the end? I want to look you in the eyes and say, no, this is not the end. This is the evolution. And sometimes the most beautiful songs come after the silence. We're learning how to sing again, not just as a group, but as individuals learning to carry their own melodies with the courage to harmonize again when the time is right. If you believe in that, if you still believe in us, write this. Still a family, because we are, and we always will be. There's a part of me that will always belong to BTS, and there's a part of BTS that will always belong to me. But now, there's another part of me, a new part. A part that belongs to a woman who looked at all of me, not just the highlight reel, and said, you're enough. And I'll spend the rest of my life proving she was right to believe that. To those who've stayed, to those who've wrestled with this change and still chosen love, thank you. Thank you for your grace. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for choosing to see me as more than a headline. You've helped me carry this promise. And I pray that one day, when you make yours, someone will help you carry it too. The weight is real, but it's worth it. And I'll carry it every day with gratitude, with humility, with love. There's more to share. But for now, hold this with me. Hold the promise. Because even when everything else fades, the promise remains. This is a question I've carried since the beginning. How do you love someone when the whole world is watching? Not just watching, judging, analyzing, projecting. How do you love in a way that feels free when every moment might be clipped, shared, debated? How do you protect something sacred in a world that treats love like spectacle? For a long time, my answer was simple. You don't. You love quietly, in shadows, in paces, only when it feels safe. But love isn't meant to be rationed. It isn't meant to be wrapped in shame. It was never meant to live behind filters and caution tape. Love, the real kind, demands your whole self. Not the curated self, not the performance, all of you. And giving someone all of you in this life I live, it's terrifying. Because the stakes are higher. Because the cost is greater. Because if people turn against me, I can survive it. But if they turn against her, the person who never asked to be part of this, that's a different pain. And yet, I chose to risk it. I chose to say her name in silence before I said it out loud. I chose to bring her into rooms where the air was heavy with, what if they find out? I chose to walk beside her, not behind closed doors, but eventually toward the light. And yes, I was afraid. Still some days. But fear doesn't disqualify love. It just means the love is worth protecting. If you've ever loved someone in secret, not because you were ashamed, but because you were afraid the world wouldn't understand, I want you to write this. I loved quietly. And if you're ready to love boldly, even when the world doesn't give you permission, write, I'm ready to love out loud. Let this be your moment too. Because you deserve that kind of love. The kind that says, I see you and I'm not hiding. She once asked me, what if I ruin everything for you? And I told her, you didn't ruin anything. You reminded me what matters. Because that's the truth. When the stage is gone, when the noise fades, when the career pauses, what's left? Who's there? Who holds you? Who still calls you by your real name? Not Golden Maknae. Not superstar. Just Jeon Jungkook. She does. And that's not weakness. That's clarity. That's strength. The kind of strength I didn't know I needed until she gave me the space to lay everything down. If you're still here, if you've listened this far, you know this isn't just about me. It's about you too. It's about us. Because every time someone in the spotlight chooses to speak from the heart, it gives someone else permission to do the same. And maybe that's the real point of all of this. Not the announcement, not the headlines, not even the wedding, but the reminder that we're all longing to be loved without condition, without compromise, without the pressure to perform. That's what I want for her. That's what I want for myself. And honestly, that's what I want for you. Because this world is loud. It rewards the curated. It praises the polished. But love flourishes in the unfiltered. It grows in the moments you thought were too messy, too complicated, too broken. She's seen those parts of me. The parts that don't make it to interviews. The nights I can't sleep because I'm questioning everything. The days I doubt myself more than I should admit. And still, she stays. Not because she's blind to my flaws, but because she doesn't flinch when she sees them. She stays because she's in love with my healing, not just my highlight reel. That kind of love, it makes you brave. It makes you want to become more, not because you're not enough, but because you've been seen as already worthy. If you've ever longed for that kind of love, or if you've given it to someone else, I want you to say it. Worthy already. Let that be your anthem. Because you don't earn love like this. You receive it. And once you do, you protect it. Not with walls. Not with silence. But with truth. The truth that says, yes, I am scared. Yes, the world may not understand. Yes, this might change how some people see me. But also, yes, I'm still choosing it. Yes, I'm walking toward it. Yes, I'm ready. That's the only thing I know how to do now. To keep choosing, not just her, but me, the real me. And choosing you two, the ones who've stayed. The ones who've grown with me. The ones who didn't click away when the story got personal. You've shown me that real connection isn't about perfection. It's about presence. And if you're still here, really here, then type it. I'm still here. Let me see you. Let others see you. Because maybe, just maybe, someone else is reading your words right now and deciding they want to stay too. We all need that kind of courage. And we can give it to each other one truth at a time. This is how I love now. Not in hiding. Not in fear. But fully, openly, gratefully. And if this message has stirred something in you, if it's brought up questions or emotions or longings you've buried, please don't silence them. Honor them. Write them. Speak them. Pray them. Because the world may be watching. But your heart was made for truth. There's more to say. But let's let this breathe for now. Hold this moment with me. Hold this truth. Because what's ahead is even deeper. Even more honest. And yes, even more beautiful. There's one night I haven't talked about. Not to the members. Not even to her. It was a night that almost rewrote everything. A night when the fear got so loud, I nearly chose to stay silent forever. I was alone in Tokyo, wrapping up a short trip. The city lights stretched endlessly from the hotel window, but I felt more alone than I had in years. It was late past midnight. The kind of late that makes everything feel heavier, more honest. The room was quiet, except for the hum of the air conditioner and the sound of my own thoughts, spinning faster than I could contain. I had drafted the message. The one I'm sharing with you now. It was sitting on my screen unfinished, raw, too honest. And in that moment, I asked myself, what if I never send this? What if I erased it? What if I told her the world wasn't ready? What if I told myself that I wasn't? I stared at the blinking cursor like it was a countdown to everything I might lose. Because part of me believed that once I said it, once I admitted I wanted to marry her, wanted a new chapter, the magic might break. The fantasy might crack. And I wondered, would you still love me if I stepped out of the role you've known me in for so long? Would you still follow the journey if it didn't fit the fairy tale? Would you still hear my voice if it wasn't only singing for you? These questions haunted me. I turned off the screen, sat in the dark, let the weight of it all settle on my chest. And for a moment, I felt myself unravel. Not because I didn't love her, but because I didn't know if I could carry both worlds. The world of music and the world of love. But then something unexpected happened. I remembered the beginning. I remembered being 15. A kid with a shaky voice and too much hope in his heart. A kid who didn't know anything about the world, only that he wanted to sing. And I asked that version of me one simple question. What did you want most back then? And the answer came quickly. To be free. Free to create. Free to love. Free to grow. Free to be. And that's when I realized, even back then, even before the fame, the cameras, the expectations, I was already craving what I was now too afraid to claim. Freedom. That night, I turned the screen back on. I finished the message. Saved it. Didn't send it yet, but I knew. I knew I would. Not because I was fearless, but because I finally remembered that truth doesn't need permission. It just needs enough love to carry it. If you've ever stood on the edge of a decision that scared you so much, you almost walked away from it, I want you to write this. I was almost silent. And if you chose to speak anyway, even with a trembling voice, write. But I spoke anyway, because your courage matters, and it's contagious. That night in Tokyo changed me. Not because I suddenly had all the answers, but because I stopped waiting for certainty and started trusting clarity. Clarity that said, you can be loyal to your past and still walk toward your future. You can honor where you came from and still evolve into something new. You can hold gratitude for your fans and still hold the hand of someone you love. It's not betrayal. It's growth. It's truth. And I know that truth is messy. It doesn't always fit neatly into a tweet or a headline or a fan theory. But it's the only thing that's real. And after all these years of giving you songs, stages, and smiles, I owe you real. Not perfection. Not just performance. But me. All of me. If you're still reading this, still holding space for this unfolding, I want to ask something new. What is your truth trying to say to you right now? You don't have to post it, but write it down. Whisper it. Acknowledge it. Don't bury it. Because if I had stayed silent that night, if I had let fear win, you wouldn't be reading this now. And I'd still be hiding a part of my heart behind polite smiles and stage lights. Instead, I'm here. Exposed. But finally free. There's something else I've never shared. During that same night in Tokyo, I played a voice note she had left me weeks earlier. She didn't know I still had it saved. It was short. She had whispered into her phone before bed. I know you're scared, but love isn't supposed to make you smaller. It's supposed to make you honest. I hit replay 5 times. Just that line. Over and over. And somewhere between those replays, I knew. I didn't want to spend another day being smaller for anyone. Not even for the millions who loved me. Because what's love if it only accepts a curated version of you? What's loyalty if it demands your silence? What's devotion if it doesn't make room for your evolution? I want you to ask yourself those same questions. Write them down. Sit with them. Don't rush. And if your answers scare you, that's okay. Truth always comes with trembling, but it also comes with light, with peace, with breath, and I want that for you. The same way I finally claimed it for me. So if you've ever come close to abandoning your truth, but chose to stay with it anyway, let this be your confirmation. Let this be your mirror. Let this be your reminder. You're not alone. You never were. And this is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of the page where you finally stop writing for others and start writing for you. I've said a lot, more than I ever thought I would, more than I ever believed I'd be allowed to say. And yet, I feel like I've only just begun, because the truth, the real soul-level truth, is that honesty is not a single moment. It's a daily practice. It's choosing again and again to show up without the mask. To live not as the version people prefer, but as the person you really are. I used to think I had to be someone else to be loved, that I had to fit an image, hold a pose, stay inside the frame that was built around me. And to some degree, that worked. I was loved. I was praised. I was adored. But I was also lonely. Not for lack of people, but for lack of permission to be all of myself. I was in a room full of love, but still hiding in the corner. And it wasn't your fault. You didn't ask me to hide, but I assumed I had to, because I was afraid of what would happen if you saw the full picture. The anger, the vulnerability, the desires, the fears, the longings that didn't match the dream you fell in love with. But now I believe something different. I believe the kind of love that's worth holding on to is the kind that can survive your truth. The kind that doesn't shatter when the fantasy fades. The kind that says, I didn't fall in love with a perfect person. I fell in love with a real one. That's what I want for her. That's what I want from you. That's what I want to give back. Realness. Rawness. A heart that isn't always polished, but is always present. And if you're still here, still listening, still holding this message in your hands, thank you. From the bottom of my soul, thank you. You didn't have to stay. You didn't have to understand. You didn't have to forgive me for not telling you sooner. But you did. And that means more than I'll ever be able to express in words or music or moments. It means you've chosen to love not just the artist, but the human. And that kind of love, that changes everything. It gives me courage to walk forward. To get married not in secret, but in light. To build a home not behind the scenes, but in the open. To become a husband, a father someday, a man with a story outside the spotlight, but rooted in everything you helped me become. If I never perform again, which I hope isn't the case, I will still carry you. Every lesson, every cheer, every midnight message, every tear, every standing ovation, you're part of me, forever. And I hope I'll always be part of you too, just not as an untouchable figure on a screen, but as a flawed, growing, deeply human person who loved you enough to tell the truth. That's what this has always been about. Not just the music, not just the fame, but connection. And if this message connected with you in any way, even the smallest, I want you to write one final thing in the comments. I choose real. Let that be the final seal between us. A covenant not of fan and idol, but of two human beings walking together in truth. Because I'm not walking away. I'm walking into a new season, into a deeper love, into the kind of life I once thought was off limits for someone like me. But it's not. And it never was. It was waiting. Just like your truth is waiting for you. So take it. Live it. Say the thing you've been too afraid to say. Love the person you've been scared to love. Walk the path that no one else understands but you. And know this. You're not selfish for choosing joy. You're not wrong for wanting more. You're not weak for needing peace. You're human. And being human is the bravest thing of all. So no, this is not goodbye. This is a beginning, a threshold, a turning point. And I am so grateful you stood at it with me. Maybe we'll see each other on a stage again. Maybe in a quiet cafe. Maybe just here in the silence of shared understanding. But no matter what, you were here. You mattered. And I love you not because you demanded something from me, but because you gave me space to be who I am. Thank you. I'll carry that with me always. And I hope you'll carry this too. Your truth is safe here. Your voice is still yours. And your next chapter is waiting. Walk toward it. I'll be walking too. I didn't plan to keep speaking. I thought maybe 10 chapters would be enough. That once I told you the truth, once I pulled the curtain back and let you see the real heart behind the performance, I'd rest. But something has changed. Something inside me keeps whispering, don't stop now. You're finally telling the story that matters most. Because this isn't just about a wedding. It's not just about falling in love. It's not just about her, or me, or even BTS. It's about legacy. And one day, maybe soon, maybe not, I'll have children. They'll grow up not knowing the version of me you met first. They won't know the sweat of stadium lights, or the roar of 60,000 fans shouting my name in a language they don't speak. They won't know the early days in the practice room, the way our stomachs growled because we didn't have enough money for lunch. They won't know the exact way Hobie used to laugh when we pulled all-nighters, or the smell of ramen and spilled energy drinks in a cramped dorm room. They'll know stories. They'll see photos. But they won't feel it not the way I did. And that used to make me sad. But now I feel something else. Hope. Because I realized something. My children won't remember the fame. They'll remember the foundation. The way I held their mother. The way I treated her in silence, not just in public. The way I chose truth, even when it hurt. And I want them to know that their father was not fearless but faithful. Faithful to his heart. Faithful to his brothers. Faithful to the people who believed in him when he was just a boy with a dream. If they ask me someday, Appa, were you scared to tell the world about Ioma? I'll smile and say yes, terrified. And if they ask, then why did you do it? I'll look them in the eyes and say, because loving her taught me how to love myself. And I wanted the world to see that love doesn't need permission to be real. That's the lesson. That's the legacy.